The Big Three, Shonen Jump's trio of iconic breakout successes within the Western world. Aside from the granddaddy of all shonen manga himself, the modern pop culture boom of anime into the mainstream could in part almost entirely be attributed to them. But with almost 2 decades passing since their initial debut, another group was bound to rise from those flames. And while debate after debate has already occurred as to who could potentially be part of a new gen Big Three, one group has clearly set themselves apart as the closest thing to a modern day equivalent of sorts. The Dark Trio. Mappa Studios' Golden Geese. These 3 series have sort of flipped the conventionally lighthearted anime-manga world on its head to pave the way for a darker, more grown-up era of Jump manga as a whole. And while not necessarily the 3 biggest or most popular of their era, which is no different than the Big Three's own golden era, these 2 groups are firmly set in stone as era-defining franchises, grouped together in such a way that they won't ever be subject to change. So if there was ever gonna be a new group of iconic anime heroes that could potentially stand toe-to-toe against Shonen's greatest legends, not just in terms of strength, but legacy, I'd have to put my money on these guys. And in terms of the latter, since you clicked on this video, I won't keep you waiting any longer, because as much as I hate the phrase, the Big Three versus the Dark Trio isn't close at all. But to start, I'm sure you guys would actually like to know how strong these guys even are, since unlike Naruto, Ichigo, and Luffy, who have all had decades worth of fans and scalers already coming to their aid to determine just how powerful they are, the new gen Dark Trio haven't even been animated as a group yet for all of a few months. So let's break down the individual pieces to give you all a better idea of who's at play here. And to avoid losing your attention, let's focus on the big guy himself first, Yuji Itadori. Since he's clearly the most well-known of the Dark Trio members and is usually one of those early names tossed up in any new gen Big Three debate due to just how popular JJK is. The reason he's not often seen as too particularly powerful though is most likely due to his grounded nature of fighting, as the one protag who puts the jump in modern Shonen Jump. He really doesn't have anything besides the superficial to help him beat down his enemies, so any fight with Yuji is gonna devolve into straight hands. While that's all fine and good, with most people agreeing he'll have to get his own power-up sooner or later in the manga, when asking if the Dark Trio can take on manga's finest, we're gonna need to up the stakes more than what Little Mac here can provide. And thusly, we enter Ryomen Sukuna. Just like Naruto, who has his 9-tailed fox spirit, or Ichigo with his hollow mask white, Itadori comes pre-packaged with his own broken demon monster. And although he's not nearly as cooperative as the other 2, heck, he's not even using Yuji as his vessel right now in the manga, with a more versatile power set, better stats, and substantially more experience, we're clearly cashing in our current featless Chapter 240 Itadori for his more definitively powerful Sukuna vessel variant, for reasons that you'll probably understand later. Even if it does mean we'll have to miss out on the hilarity of Yuji and Denji interacting. But to cut this section short, how strong exactly is manga Sukuna? In terms of feats, this version of Sukuna possesses 19 of his 20 fingers, and is said by Satoru Gojo, the second strongest character in JJK, to be even more powerful than himself. So really, any number of feats from weaker characters should apply here, as whatever they can do, Sukuna can probably do it better. And being generous to this cursed king, he should scale up from characters like Kenjaku, who survived world-eating black holes, Jogo and his city-level maximum meteor, or just all of the special grade sorcerers who can solo entire countries as a requirement to get the title. And of course, this is ignoring his own older feats, such as disintegrating Shibuya and surviving a 200% hollow purple, which is an attack that obliterates things down to the atomic level. And of course, these feats should also apply to his speed, with multiple consistent relativistic feats presented, from the same black hole reaction, to injured Sukuna dodging point blank EM waves, or purple deleting itself at the speed of light. All of this could suggest that if you're generous to the King of Curses, he'd have some very competitive stats with good hacks to boot, such as Reverse Curse Technique, a form of self-regen, Domain Expansion, which for this fight we can just pretend he has mastered to a similar level that he did at the end of the Gojo fight, giving him an unavoidable reality-cutting slash within a 200 or so meter circle of where he's standing, and some other generic abilities like Fire Blast or hand-to-hand combat. Since this isn't some dedicated JJK vid though, I'd like to touch on the other 2 Dark Trio members quickly because although they aren't quite as popular as Yuji and his not-so-best buddy Sukuna, Denji with his titular Chainsaw Devil, and Gabimaru with his Immortal Flower Tao should still be more than helpful here. In the case of Denji, after giving him one good look, if you can't tell me exactly how you think his powers work, then I've got some real estate I'd like to sell you in this place called Antarika. The weather is great there this time of year. But for everyone with eyes and a little creativity, this man has chainsaws, and this chainsaw man, so to speak, is the hero of hell and perhaps the most dangerous of all the devils in his world, with superpowered magic blood chainsaws that can do such amazing things as, well, be chainsaws. They spin, they whir, and they work as solid melee tools that he can seemingly project out of anywhere, with the only real unique feature of note being his ability to remove the chains from their tracks to use as whips or binds for an opponent. His more useful combat powers, however, are his regeneration, which even far outpaced the likes of Sukuna to make Denji a real tank. Which, might I add, he drop-kicked back through the entire atmosphere at terminal velocity, making this thing literally catch on fire, but it was still perfectly intact by the time it reached Earth. Whereas Sukuna would be completely lights out with just the loss of his brain. And while all of that is well and good, considering Chainsaw Man is almost entirely a melee fighter, it's probably pretty important that we give you a quick scale to avoid you thinking he's just some sort of immortal marshmallow. And for him, there are two easy directions to look. In terms of strength, he can casually kick powerful devils through multiple skyscrapers, while also far outscaling the likes of the complete Gun Devil, who could level entire massive chunks of cities, whereas even stronger devils who Chainsaw Man may have been able to defeat in his prime, specifically like the Falling Devil, have statements of affecting the entire world with their power. Coupled with even the likes of Makima's reincarnation, now Yuta being clearly inspired by Fujimoto's older one-shot with a character of the same name, who was capable of indeed wrecking the whole world, which alongside now Yuta's own lore could highly suggest Chainsaw Man God tiers may be approaching the planet-destroying tier of powers soon enough. This, as you'd expect, carries over to speed, with the Gun Devil's ability to fire massive weapons while traversing the planet being often scaled anywhere from Mach 300 to Mach 1500 and even Mach 4000 plus, while also possibly going much higher, again using those lore statements. To bring a good thing to an end though, considering we're looking at two casually city level to island level characters who both could potentially be encroaching upon way higher metas, let's temper our hopes a bit now by talking about Gabimaru, since unfortunately he doesn't really fit the same bill as the others. As while he is very strong in his own right, immune to conventional weaponry, being boiled to death, or even wrecking balls to the face, all prior to his Tao power-ups I might add, which is basically just his magic ninja energy, Gabimaru really doesn't get too many feats, with his greatest strengths coming in the form of extreme skill, a nearly indestructible body via Flower Tao, which can regenerate you from any non-spiritual damage, and of course his own ability to manipulate Tao into spiritual attacks, which may or may not be effective on someone's soul. At least for Gabimaru, he should be far above lightning timing, making him just as fast as his fellow Dark Trio members, and capable of giving support with his near-immortal body. To recap now though, hopefully you can sort of see a pattern here. 3 Dark Shonen dudes who are in effect varying degrees of immortal from their insane regeneration abilities, with speed far exceeding lightning and power progression that can put their lower ends in the city level ranges, with higher ones potentially going into mountain, island, or even planet level scales if you can squint into the future with some rose-tinted glasses. So with the stage set, how do these 3 compare? If every member of the new generation stood toe-to-toe with the big 3, how would this epic battle unfold? It appears Ichigo whipped out his Bankai that casually scales above planet-level destruction by just existing, and now everyone was deleted. Well, that's no big deal, we can just send Ichigo off to go get some groceries or something. But now, for real this time, the epic battle between the Dark Trio and Big Duo will commit. I guess Naruto brought out his world-destroying, moon-creating Ninetales and everyone was instantaneously vaporized. Not to worry though, we can just let Naruto go book a venue for the victory party. So, in an unexplainable battle of Dark Trio versus just Luffy... Are you starting to get my point here? Unless you've been living under a rock, unlike the Dark Trio who I had to be unreasonably charitable to throughout this entire video, even granting them Sukuna's assistance, we're talking about 3 classic characters who are minimum at or nearing planet level, with some like Ichigo being there just through existing, potentially not even allowed to go back to Earth anymore, with massively faster than light speeds being their baselines as opposed to some sort of wild series contradicting outliers. And while Chainsaw Man has a vague statement or two and some interesting lore, and Sukuna has upscaling from one very vague black hole feat that could both potentially top out near planet level scaling, Naruto by himself has upward of a dozen or more planetary feats, Ichigo probably has a count of some odd 20 plus statements as well, and if we're talking about Luffy soloing your entire trio at that point, well then I hope it should be very clear where I stand. Even if we're as nice as we can be to the entire Dark Trio, and let Sukuna use his durability negating Space Slash to delete any single one of them he wants, the big three could literally win just fine, even if any or most of their members happen to be dispatched or called out sick, because they all equally hold their own weight as planet-level powerhouses in a way that's far more consistent than the Dark Trio. But with Yuji preparing to pull up on Sukuna right now as we speak in JJK Chapter 241 with a brand new arm, and Denji preparing to end his series with a fight against the Death Devil, plus Gabimaru here cheering on pleasantly from the sidelines, maybe once their respective series come to an end, this matchup might just change for the Dark Trio, as they surpass all the prior limits found in their series. But until they do, this matchup is about as one-sided as they come. Subscribe if you want to see more like it though, click the linked video if you want to know more of my thoughts of Luffy vs JJK, and that's all for today. Thanks, everyone.